So I'm getting ready to stitch this piece in that's going to hold the cleaning strap, and I've got my holes punched. They should all line up just right. I've kind of checked it to make sure that they do. And remember, I'm using the 5.5 millimeter thread, which is a bit of a snug fit in the John James what are these, 004 needles. It's a little bit of a snug fit. I dyed the thread so it's black. And I was looking here at the holes for the tube that's going to go in, which is right there over there. It's drying yet. But there's not enough room to fit a big needle through there. So the needle that I would normally use for that other thread, I tried to fit it through one of those holes. And I really have to force it through. I think this whole apparatus for this cleaning rod was an afterthought. If it was part of the original design, I think it would have been done with the same thread. So I dyed another piece of this thread to hold that tube in as well, because I'm willing to bet, and I'd put money on it, that this was held in with lighter thread. The same thread, in fact, that was used here. Now there's a couple of spots I'm going to have to touch up, I think, with a little bit of dye, because where the holes go through, that boot polish that was on there was dug in so deep that it's just going to have to come off. Now, you have to keep in mind that there's spots on these holsters. Well, we'll go into that a little later. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch this in, and I'm going to start on the bottom. I'll go in the second hole because it's going to cast over. The second hole in here and the first hole on the strap. Oh, maybe. When I measured the size of that hole, it was a different punch size. Most of the holes on these holsters are use like the same as a 4 millimeter. These were smaller, 3 millimeter. If it all goes as planned, I'll be able to sneak the thread out underneath, and like I did with the flap here, be able to tie it off underneath and nobody will ever see it. I'll go ahead and finish stitching this up, cut you back on when I tie it off. I forgot to cut you back on. I pulled the first one through already. So let's get the second one. So I'm just going through the lid and out. Try to pull the leather back a little bit. It's always hard to do after you've stitched it down nice and tight. There we go. When I came through from the top side here, or the inside, I had to put one of my bent needles in there. Just made it easier because I broke my second John James needle ever. 2 of them in 10 years, that's not too bad, I don't think. And then we just tie a square knot. And you usually hope it doesn't break, but it did. That's okay. It ain't going anywhere. That is for certain. Grab the hammer. And there we go. And this will fold over here. And it uses the same button stud as that flap does. So it'll go like that. The cleaning rod will sit in there like so. And that's about how that goes. It'll sit back a little farther. So it'll kind of go like that. The end of the tube, some of them I've seen weren't stitched closed, some were. It's hard to say. So I'm not sure if I'm going to stitch it closed or not. Who knows? But I'll be back in a little bit when we're ready to put that tube in. I'm ready to start stitching this tube in. And I just got a couple of needles kind of holding it in place so I can get started without too much difficulty. I hope. So the first one I'm going to go through and hopefully come through the first hole. Might be easier to go from this side. Yep. I know that every one of these is going to have to be pulled through with the pliers. I noticed too that right where I'm going here, there's a broken thread. And I cleaned that up as best I could. But it's only broken for one stitch. So I'm going to make sure that I'm doubled over on this part. Because for one broken stitch, I don't want to re-stitch the whole top. We want to leave as much intact as possible. And I haven't let Beehive know yet that I didn't have to take the top off. So he'll have a new he'll have a surprise coming. Because I know that he doesn't he also doesn't like to see any more work done than necessary. Yeah, I think we're just going to keep going from the inside out. I normally like to go from outside in, but this piece is just going to be a bear to do that way. I know you can't see a whole lot of what I'm doing, so I'm going to probably cut you off here in a minute. Alright, I'm going to take and feed my cleaning rod in here, just to kind of open that up, and I'm going to try to feed a needle through here, and then I'm going to come back through here and try to feed it again through the next hole over. Let's hope that works. That will give me a good tie off. I hope anyway. Maybe not. Well, I got one. Get this to go through. And as long as this goes through a different hole, I should be able to tie off and be good. Kind of like that. There we go. I'm going to try to use my cleaning rod here to push it down in there a bit. That'll work. Well, there we go. Let's see how everything fits with my fake cleaning rod. And I'll show you how this is supposed to work. It is supposed to fit in there about like that, and then you're supposed to be able to close the lid, with the cleaning rod in there. I'm going to call that a success. I do have to put the strap on up here yet. I'm going to give it one more good coat of Connolly's up on the lid here before I put that strap on. Kind of zoomed in a little bit here because I wanted to show you some things. Now remember, we did a, well, I did. I guess you didn't do diddly except watch my video. I took some isopropyl alcohol and knocked off all the boot polish that was on this holster. And the lid was really, it had a lot on it. It turned, that's what it did to my rag. One of them. I got another rag that looks a lot like that. So, that's how the kind of boot polish it was on it. Most of that came from the lid here. But you can see right in here, it's just kind of, it's not real shiny. And it probably will never be that way again. Unless you put boot polish on it. But this is a high wear area right through here and across the top here. Mostly because you're going to be touching this when you're going in and grabbing to unbuckle the strap to take the firearm out. And across the top here, you're going to have your garment is going to be touching your jacket or whatever. People rest their hand on their holster and that kind of thing. So it's going to get, they're high wear areas. Now there's other cracking that is showing up now because the boot polish was filling in all those cracks. And that's just one of those things, we can't do much about that. We took the boot polish off, so the cracks are going to show up. And all we can do, well, it allowed the Connolly's to get in there and moisturize that part of the leather. So it's actually in better shape now because it's all moisturized real well. So the holster is going to last longer this way. It's not going to be quite as pretty as it is with boot polish on it, because you can really get that boot polish to really shine up nice. But it's not as healthy for the leather. Granted, you can oil the inside and get it to really be pretty on the outside, but it's not as healthy for the leather. You got to get it to penetrate from this side too. So all the original finish that was on it, I mean, you can see spots of it still here. The original finish is still intact here. But in these high wear areas, you're not going to get that finish to come back like it was. So I'm going to zoom you back out. And I'm going to get started putting the strap on. I'm going to start at the top here. So I'll start with my first hole. And I will probably need a pliers to get my first stitches done here. But this should go pretty easy. Nice flat piece. Now the second one is going to go, there's a hole over the top. And we'll just come back down. That'll give us a good binding stitch on the top, which is how it was originally. And down at the bottom it has another binding stitch. I'll do this side and then I'll do the other side off camera. You don't need to see me do both sides, they're the same. And again, I'm not pulling super tight because we don't want to be pulling through the leather at any point. Remember, this leather's 80 odd years old. I do believe somebody oiled the heck out of this leather at some point in its fairly recent history. So this is that other binding stitch. Comes across down here, right across there. Now originally it was tied off right here. Right at this point. So that's where I'm going to tie it off. Maybe this is a good time to show you how to do a square knot. Zoom in. So I'm going to just make a simple overhand knot. So I'm going my right over my left. We'll pull it down. And for the next one, I'm going to go left over right. And pull it down. And that's all there is to a square knot. Grab my blade. We don't want to cut it too close. I want to leave a good 1/8 of an inch there. And you never use this part of your blade when you're doing leather work, so that's always good and sharp. But I want to leave a good 1/8 of an inch. And I'll just lay it against the thread. And tear it off. And that's all there is to it. Go ahead and hammer it down. And there we go. I'll go ahead and do the other side. Bring you back in a couple minutes. There's another part that goes, another flat piece that goes here, and it's pretty much just a straight piece of leather that goes down onto the tool pouch, or it locks down onto the same button stud that's on the tool pouch flap closes onto. Am I saying that right? I am just talking today and try this again. To do that, I'm just going to set it on here, and these holes match up to that punch I just dropped on the floor. I'll be right back. Alright folks, there we go. The 1934 Luger holster. Got my strap a little bit wide. It's a little wide for the keeper. I think it'll be just fine though. Came out pretty good. I like the inside. Everything worked out good. It needs a little time to let all the Connellys kind of work into it a little bit. I always send a note back with the customer, let him know what I did, everything that's been done, all that. So he'll get the note, because I don't know, some people like to have that kind of documentation, especially with vintage stuff like this. So I always send that back. I believe the video right before this that is posted is my process of what I do when I take a holster in for repair. So there's a process that I go through and I document everything. I take pictures of everything. So the pictures that you saw before this, the before and afters, are all from that. Anyway, there you go. That's it. If you like these videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. There'll be more coming. Hit the like button if you like it. And ring that bell to get notified the next one's coming up. I got a rifle case coming up next. That'll might be more than one video. Might be 2 or 3. Don't know yet. Got to talk to my customer just a little bit on that. Make sure that I get it exactly how he wants it. So, with that being said, y'all stay safe. God bless. Thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next video.